Warning: the following program is a satirical look at Indigenous news, politics, and current events. Native Twitter is advised.
Bonjour and welcome to the Laughing Drum, my friends. Television so deeply and profoundly Indigenous, we wear a native pride hat that we bought at that powwow that one time. I am your host, Tim Fontaine, and we have got a doozy of a show for you tonight. The Red Power panel is in a holding pattern over the studio right now, and they are ready to strike at a moment's notice. But first, as always, let's see what's been happening on the news. We begin in politics again, where the SNC-Lavalin scandal just keeps on keeping on. And the resignation of Treasury Board President Jane Philpott from Trudeau's cabinet has shaken Ottawa.
Well, we have just learned Jane Philpott is resigning from the Government of Canada. We have just received a letter from her, and I'm going to read it for you. This is a major news. She says, "I've been considering the events that have shaken the federal government in recent weeks, and after serious reflection, I have concluded that I must resign as a member of cabinet."
Whoa, 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 that's me shaking there. Following Philpott's departure, several Indigenous leaders paid public tributes to Philpott. Philpott, meanwhile, said her resignation from cabinet frees her up to follow her true passion, fighting First Nation kids in court over things like equal funding or dental work. Godspeed, Jane Philpott. Godspeed. Still in politics, where the good times continue to roll, and two people named by former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould testified before a committee probing the SNC-Lavalin affair. First, Trudeau's former right-hand man, Gerry Butts, said that he didn't remember things the same way Wilson-Raybould remembered things or something. Then, for some reason, the country's top bureaucrat testified that he was being cyberbullied and doubled down on a warning he made the week before that today's hyper-partisan politics is going to get someone killed. And surprise, surprise, both denied that anyone applied inappropriate pressure on former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould. So, what did we learn from all of this? Again, sweet all. But in the vacuum caused by this scandal, we can't look anywhere else. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, the Red Power panel will tear into these topics and more. But before we go to break, I want to remind you that on March 15th, we'll be recording this show before a live audience at the Toronto Sketch Comedy Festival. You'll be able to see me, the Laughing Drums contributor Alyssa Blackwolf-Kickson in person in front of an audience, plus appearances by Dio Horn, Craig Lozon, and Candy Palmater. Tickets are available now, so don't miss out or you'll be all sad and crying around. Okay, now you can go to break, but make sure you come right back. And welcome back to the Laughing Drum, my tender, beloved Laughing Drumlets. Like a mighty eagle, it's time for the Red Power panel to devour the week's news and then regurgitate it back to you. This week, the Red Power panel is comic Sasha the Basha Mark. Since the dawn of time, she's been comic Dawn Lavand. And a comic my sister called the one who was swearing on your show, Alyssa Blackwolf-Kickson. Welcome to you all. All right, guys. It's been a crazy week in politics, as usual, for the past few weeks. The SNC-Lavalin scandal continues. The latest casualty, Treasury Board President and former Indigenous Services Minister Jane Philpott the latest to abandon the ship that is the Liberal cabinet. Philpott resigned, saying she had lost confidence in the government because of how they are handling the whole affair. Red Power panel, what were your first thoughts on hearing this news?
I think that it's kind of weird because like Canada isn't kind of like excited that women are losing their jobs in the government now. They're like they're standing up, and that's awesome. And I think Justin Trudeau is just like sitting there being like, should I have been a feminist? You know, like, did that work out for me? You know?
Do you think he's regretting that statement now, saying he's a feminist? Do you think he's still holding on to that? Don, what were your first thoughts on seeing this?
Hopefully, one of us. We're indigenizing the Liberal Party. We're bailing ship.
That's one way to look at it. Melissa, first thoughts on this?
My first thoughts were, you know, when somebody's like super evil and then they try to redeem themselves, but just they suck at doing it. That's what my thoughts were with the old Philpott.
Explain. What history does Philpott have in government?
Just. She has a lack of history, is what she has. Like she hasn't done a whole lot, and what she has done hasn't been the most useful for Indigenous people. So for her to be like, "Oh, me too, I'm jumping ship. I'm waiting to be canonized soon. So yeah, that's what my thoughts are.
So in that vein of thought, what did you make of the tributes that were pouring in when Philpott did resign? I mean, there were a lot of Indigenous leaders saying, "Oh, she was always willing to give a hand," forgetting that she was in power when the government sued a First Nation or fought a kid in court who was fighting for dental care. Right, so this is part of that legacy. So what did you think of First Nation leaders lining up to thank her?
All I could think of is like Hunger Games, where they're like, "I volunteer as tribute." I'm just like, why do we have to do this still? Like we talk about self-governance, and then we have our leaders, you know, like, standing in the balconies being like, "Woo, good for you, yes, for the people."
Oh no! I was going off of the one picture I saw with her and come on, that other lady who just stepped down too. The one that
Jody Wilson. Well, the two of them, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it looked like a really beautiful besties forever photo, and I just like forgot all the history.
But I think that's what happened. Was I think a lot of people saw somebody taking what is seen as a principled stance, and it kind of washes away the past, right? So. I don't know.
Not in my eyes.
I think it's important to have a remember then, because
this is the remember.
I remember the evil.
That's your superpower. That's awesome. We're going to just carry you around all over the place. Whenever anybody says something.
I remember. Sorry.
Okay, so the scandal just won't go away. Last week, Gerry Butts, who was a former top advisor to Trudeau, who stepped down after this, the whole thing broke the first time and said basically, "Nothing's wrong, but I quit." Now he's testified saying pretty much the same thing, that nothing wrong happened, but that he remembered things differently. And there's actually a lot of talk about that, about people remembering different sides of a situation differently. What do you make of that?
First and foremost, Gerry Butts is my second least favorite Gerry. The first one being, he's not here right now. Thank God.
Shade has been thrown. Sacred shade.
No, I just never, I saw the discussion of, you know, people saying a lot of rhetoric, but there's actually almost like no conversation actually going on. Yeah. And a lot of people are just hiding behind their words. So like, if this was a gathering of like Indigenous people, we would have like talked it out, we would have fought each other, we would have unblocked each other, we would have blocked each other on Facebook, and it would have been solved in 24 minutes. You know, this whole situation would have been figured out. And they just, there's so much talking and actually a lot of not of words going on.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Don?
I don't know, it kind of triggered like my post-foster kid experience where they were like, I have a different story, or I have a different version of the story, and I was just like, my whole life is flashing before my eyes.
Sounds like a traumatic experience.
And we're back. Hi.
I was expecting something curtain to drop for a moment there or something. Yeah, it was quite there was another guy by the name of Michael Wernick, who's a top bureaucrat. He spoke right after. Similar sort of thing. He kind of remembered things differently. There's a lot of that going on. Did you catch any of that? The Michael Wernick guy? He looks like the Sam Eagle from the Muppets. Angry man.
I'm from 2003. I don't know what the Muppets are.
Oh my goodness!
What is
That's terrible.
That hurts my soul.
But there was a lot of comparisons made to Gerry Butts looking like an Irish actor by the name of Chris O'Dowd.
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying that all the time. If they were to make a movie of this whole scandal, who else would play who? Who would play Trudeau?
I would say that this movie would be like a horror movie. It's scary. There's only one person of color involved right now, and it'd be very scary. Like there's always that little girl who's like crying and she's very scary. That would be Trudeau, you know.
The girl from the ring.
Yeah.
The girl from the ring.
Or Orphan. That would play Trudeau.
Who could play Jody Wilson-Raybould?
There's not a lot of Indigenous actors in Hollywood.
Johnny Depp.
So probably Scarlett Johansson, you know.
Okay, let's
Oh,
get.
gosh.
Well, did you want to add to that?
Not really, not after oh my goodness. It's awful. I feel like, oh yeah, equal opportunity.
I don't know. Canadian politics is kind of like a Dilbert comic, you know, like in the Saturday morning comic book strip. It's so boring, like compared to American politics, where you're just like, whoa.
What happened?
What is this? Is this a weird reality TV show that America has somehow turned, like that's what they are now? They're just they're reality TV. Whereas Canadian politics, they're just like the scandal is, I remember things differently.
This is the sexiest scandal we have.
I remember things a tad different.
Okay, one question I keep hearing. I think we've talked a few times on the show about what this means for the Liberals. But one thing that I've been hearing more and more is that Indigenous criticism of the Trudeau government somehow hands a win to the Conservatives or to a less friendly government. What do you make of that? Because it's being thrown out there all the time. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Now these guys are going to get it. What are your first thoughts on hearing an argument like that?
Yeah, pretty much. It just one big like, oh, really? That's where your brain goes automatically. Your brain doesn't go to this government should be better because that's why we voted them in. It goes to, well, now the Conservatives are in and we just, oh my, like, there's so many other options that we have as, you know, as a country that we can move towards, not just, you know, like it's either the Liberals or the Conservatives. It's, you know, like how do we fix these problems and how do we rectify these situations?
Well, that's pretty close to reconciliation then.
All right, settle down, John Lennon. We got to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to have more with the Red Power panel. Don't go away. We're going to tell your cooking. Do you like my podcast? Do you? Well, since you like it so much, why not let us know by subscribing and leaving a glowing review? Think of it as turning reconciliation into reconciliation.
Did you know we got the social medias?
Don't lie.
It's true. Like the Laughing Drum on Facebook and follow us on Twitter right now.
Welcome back to the Laughing Drum, my friends. Television so deeply Indigenous, our tattoos are beaded onto our skin. The Red Power panel is here, and we are ready to go on to our third and final topic, and we are going to talk about apologies. So if you've been watching the news, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has apologized for how Canada treated Inuit people suffering from tuberculosis. Now, it's just the latest apology from the Trudeau government, and I guess from Canada in general. I don't want to focus necessarily on this specific apology because none of us are Inuk, and I don't think we should necessarily, see what, I mean, we couldn't certainly say what it felt like for them, but I think we can talk about the issue of apologies and what they mean to Indigenous people. Sasha, let's go with you first. What good are apologies if the problems still exist?
They're not good. For Justin Trudeau's sake, it takes 32 sentences to say I'm sorry. Like, it takes forever, and I'm really tired. I don't have that all the time. And I think the only sentence people want to see Justin Trudeau finish is, I guess, a jail sentence right now.
Whoa!
So, is that what's going on?
Whoa! He's got a yellow vest on. I should have expected. Dawn, what good are apologies?
Well, when they're sincere, they hold weight and value. But when they're like, sorry, not sorry, which is kind of the underlying sentiment that I feel, then it's just really poor leadership. Will somebody please think of the children?
Alyssa, are you thinking of the children?
Was I supposed to?
What good are apologies?
Apologies. What are they good for? Absolutely nothing. Let's say it again now.
We need a band. Bring on the laughing drum dancers now.
Oh my goodness. If only.
Sasha, have you ever felt satisfied with an apology from government? And there have been a few. Have you ever looked at one and thought, you know what? Yeah.
One from Stephen Harper. Just kidding.
Dawn?
I feel like I said, if they were sincere, for sure, you bet. Like apology doesn't just mean like I said I was sorry. There's also action behind it, and so usually they apologize and then there's no action. That's what she said. But it's also one of those things where it's like trailing off into space because clearly trauma llama ding dong. But
so you want to see action behind an apology?
Yeah, I would like to see some action behind it.
Yeah.
And I just wish it didn't feel so much like Chief Wiggum being like, bake them away, toys. And they're like, what'd you say? And he's like, bake them away. Like, so.
The 60 Scoop apology came with some promise of money. When a government says sorry and offers money, does that somehow make it any more meaningful?
Yeah, give me money, okay? Everything's great now.
I don't know.
Is that considered action? Because that seems to be what people are like, well, I'll give them money.
But then there's so much backlash from the rest of the community about like, oh, they're just getting an apology because they're just looking for more handouts, right? Yeah. And so it doesn't feel good because then it's just like, yay, so you're willing to compensate and only to a certain extent. And no, like if they were legitimately sorry, then they would be like, actually, we're reviewing the systems that be, and they were actually not meant for you to be successful. And in order for us to have a new version of Canada that's free from where we're at, we actually need to partner with Indigenous peoples, revamp our system, actually do the truth and reconciliation work, right? And like without that action and without that stuff, then they're just saying like, I'm sorry, the system is the way the system is, and there's nothing we can do about it. And it's like, really, you're the Prime Minister of the country that makes the systems. So just saying.
You are the system, so matrix it up. Fix things.
I can't even say it. Matrix it up. I like that.
It just reminds me of the Sultan from Aladdin. When he's like, you have to marry by your 16th birthday. And she's like, but you're the Sultan.
That makes perfect sense now. Alyssa, you remember probably the residential school apology.
Yes.
which came, again, with money, but also with some actions and things that happened, like the TRC Commission, all of these other things. Was that a meaningful apology?
I feel like it would have been a meaningful apology if something actually came out of it. Because yes, like we had the TRC, but we still have the TRC, and so much of Canada doesn't even know what the TRC is or what it stands for, or even, you know, the work that it's usually work done by Indigenous people, like the labor's done by us, but then the outcome just falls short every single time. So, yeah, whenever I think of the apology, I think of, I'm sorry, so sorry. That, you know, just like, I did these actions, but there's no way I can undo them.
Yeah. What should Canada apologize? If you could force Canada to apologize for anything right now, what would you get them to apologize for?
Saskatchewan. And their Rough Riders, I guess. Is that?
We're sorry about Saskatchewan. We didn't mean it. Don, what would you force them to apologize for?
I don't know. I guess just like always, like being freaking tricksters and then putting that on us, right? And so, I mean, like, gaslighting. You know, it smells, and we can't even be like, what the heck is that smell? It's freaking gaslighting from you guys. Cheesy, my Nelly. Yeah, I just.
What did you say?
Cheesy, my Nelly. We're on television, and someone does the cursing, and it's not me.
I do the cursing for all of us.
When you recognize evil, you're allowed to curse. Until then.
I'm a rememberer. It's my gift.
Alyssa?
If I was to make Canada apologize, you know what? There'd be two things. Nickelback and Robert Falconer.
Oh, same
that's
category.
a big apology that needs to happen.
All right. On that note, I think that's all the time we have for this show this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the show. Thanks to my Red Power panel, as always, for coming out and sharing their often horrible, horrible thoughts with the world. Be sure to join us next week when we'll be live at the Toronto Sketch Comedy Festival. You don't want to miss that. We'll see you then.
Woo!